Yet another in an endless series of short shows for us. We're out at 6 o'clock today, preempted by Minnesota Timberwolves basketball. The Wolves continue this arduous trip. They're in Orlando tonight, and then I think they're in Boston tomorrow. So the Magic, the opponent, and all the coverage beginning not only on the Timberwolves channel, but on FM 100.3 The Fan, beginning at 6 o'clock. Guardsy out today, preparing for his play-by-play call of Golden Gopher women's basketball there at Michigan tonight. And, in fact, that game I'm assuming will be on the Plus. Most of the Gopher women's basketball games are on KFAN Plus, which you can also get via the iHeart radio channel. If you have some questions for our next guest, Louie, he's going to join us here in just a minute. Hit the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line. That is 64686. There's a lot, obviously, to get to regarding the Minnesota Wild. We may get into some college hockey. We may even get Louie's opinion on what the Minnesota Vikings should do at the quarterback position, bring back Kirk, and or use that early draft pick for a quarterback as well. And I'm assuming Guards will be back tomorrow. Kessler among our guests. And another programming reminder I should get to before we say hi to Lou. Glenn Mason, I believe, is going to join us on Thursday this week. I think he's going to join Thursday. He's got some travel issues as well, and it'll be our first chance to chat with Mace since the national championship game won, of course, by Michigan last night. Indeed, Louie, now with us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. I guess we should, for the record, play the music. Let's do that. I mean, we can't have a Louie segment without the music.
Yeah! Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a slow boat to China. Tell me, where in the world is Nanny?
Well, we know he's not in studio. We know he's brought to you by Kemp's. I'm going to guess you are in sunny Florida. Is that correct?
Yes, but it's not sunny today. It's 82, but the winds were probably 35 miles an hour.
Oh, you poor thing. Poor thing. How do you cope in those kinds of conditions?
Well, because I was thinking about getting to see you on the screen, which I've never done before. 20-some years. I'm looking at this now. This is really unique. It's different.
It's very special, is it not? Well, We've been talking about it online for a while. We want to start with a pretty big announcement that you want to reveal through our audience. We're very appreciative that you're using our forum to get this particular word out. What's the big announcement from you, Luigi?
Well, Dan, as you know, this will be my 60th year since I started doing the state high school hockey tournament, and this will be my last.
This is it?
Yes. I've given a lot of thought, and I thought I was going to do more, but I just think that this is the right time to do it. I just feel, very strongly about this now. I'm obviously sad that I'm going to not be doing it anymore, but I just think it's time for somebody else to do it, and it's time for me to get away from having to come back to do the tournament. And as much as I've enjoyed it, and I certainly have enjoyed it as much as anything in the world, it's going to be something that I'll sorely miss, but it's something that it's time to get done and move on.
All the memories, Louie, honest to God. I mean, think about what does come into your mind now that you've made the decision and made the announcement. What kinds of things come back to you?
Well, some obviously would be the unbelievable games that I've seen. Like, I can never, ever forget the Apple Valley Duluth East going 5 overtimes, and not only because it was 5 overtimes in a great game, it was a game that I don't think I've ever seen the likes of before, because once we got to overtime, it was continually opportunities for each of the teams. It was as wide open as you can ever believe for an overtime, and I didn't think it was ever going to end. It did look like it ended when it seemed to me that Duluth had scored a goal. Sure. We didn't have instant replay, and play continued. It wasn't counted. But 5 overtimes, these kids going till early in the morning, and Apple Valley, after an outstanding effort on Friday night, came back to win the state tournament the next day with very little rest and really putting their heart and souls in that game the night before, which is something. Then I had the good fortune of watching my son score the winning goal in the championship game, and then I had his two sons, Louis and Tyler, both win state championships. So they were games I'll never forget. But so many good players over all those years that I've seen, just the difference in the play from the beginning when I first started doing it in it was 1964. When they were using like two lines, basically with five forwards and maybe three defensemen and a goaltender, and the periods were much shorter. I think they were 12 minutes at the time. I can hardly remember. To where they are today with four lines, six defensemen, and phenomenal play where these kids go out and stalk the college league teams all over the country, and many of them move on to great careers in the NHL. It's been just marvelous to see the development of the American boy, and most notably the Minnesota boy in hockey, and largely due to the goal that they had to play in the state high school hockey championship.
60 years, man. It's an astonishing legacy. It really is. And we take it for granted, and we shouldn't. And I know you don't. It occurs to me that, or I wonder, if you go back to the early years, you mentioned some of the ways in which the hockey was different. What was your sense of the sort of, I don't know, the popularity of, the gravitas of the event itself as compared to what it has become in more recent decades?
Well, it was popular then, but you have to remember they're playing at St. Paul, I think they call it the Civic Center at the time, and it had about 7,500 seats. And it was full at the time. People enjoyed it, but the games were shorter. The talent wasn't as good. I remember the first time I went as a spectator when I was in high school. Well, when I was in college, and this was a high school game, and so it was 1960. I saw my first term when I was still in. I just started college there at the University of Minnesota, and I went to see it, and I was looking at it, and I said, there's not a lot of good players on the ice. There's some great players, but not a lot. And then by the time this thing evolved, it's just amazing to me how many good ones there are, how many great ones there are, and how far this product has come. Minnesota has just developed so many hockey players over the 60 years that have become phenomenal hockey players at all levels, and it's a tribute to the high school league. Because one thing when you're young, Dan, I was telling people that you don't aspire to play in the National League when you're 7, 8, 9 years old. You want to play for the high school team. You don't even. I never even thought of playing in the NHL when I was that age. I wanted to play for our city team. Think that if I could only be good enough to make the city team, you wouldn't dare think you'd be good enough to play in the NHL. And these kids all want to play in the state high school tournament. And you can see all the people that have had the opportunity to play, and especially win in the tournament, how it's one of the most memorable things in their life. It doesn't matter what kind of level they've achieved in hockey, what kind of success they've achieved. This goes right up there with all of them.
We're chatting, of course, with the unmistakable voice of Lou Nanne, who was just announced at the top of this hour that he will end his 60-year run as the voice of Minnesota high school hockey and the high school hockey tournament on TV when he does the TV commentary on the upcoming state high school hockey tournament. This is going to be the end of the run for Louie. Let me put you on the spot. Who is the best? I'm not talking about best players in terms of who he turned out to be. Who is the best high school hockey player you ever saw?
Well, there are a few of them. Tim Sheehy was one of the early ones with International Falls. And he went on to have an excellent career, but he dominated. Like, I was very, very, excited about seeing a guy that big and that good in high school. And then Henry Boucher was one. And then Housley. Ryan McDonough put on a performance. I remember after the game when Cretin won the state championship, I went right down, and his coach was, I think it was Jim O'Neill. I'm sure it was Jim O'Neill. And I said, congratulations, great win. Where's McDonough going? He said Wisconsin. He said, "Are you kidding me?" And I went home. I got a brilliant call, Lucia. What are you doing? You got to get this McDonough kid. So, the guys that like Paul Martin had a great tournament, and I remember telling Scotty Bowman when he was there, I said, I want to tell you something. He said, boy, this kid, something else. And I said, I want to tell you something about this kid. I said, I remember looking at Ray Bork and walking out of the arena, and Jacques Lemaire says, what do you think? I said, my, that kid is something. He's like that every night. And I said the same thing about Paul Martin. The size of Holmgren still, and then the toughness still, I remember about. It's hard to just pick one. Broughton's, the two Broughtons playing with the Erickson, small guys. Halsey playing in those, they used to have Cooperalls in at that time and just dominating as a high school player. Next year he's playing National Hockey League. I mean, it's just amazing what transpired over the years.
Is there, it seems like it's a fairly flawless event as it stands right now for all the reasons we've discussed over the years, most notably the history of it and the tradition of it, the quality of play. But if you were commissioner, I mean, is there anything you would tweak? Is there any way to make this tournament better than it already is?
Well, I did get involved in tweaking it one way. I'll never forget it. I was working with Wally Shaver. We were working that night. In fact, I think the games were at the Target Center at that time, and we were waiting. We went on the air at 7:00 to do the championship game. Well, the third place game ran into the 7:00 time, and we had to go on the air, and we didn't have the rights to broadcast the third place game, and so we were doing this for an hour, which really had me upset. And the reason why I had it upset, and I called down, I caused a little havoc and stir.
That's not like you.
Changed. But I said, do you guys understand that unfortunately people won't remember who played in the third place game next year? And you're going right into prime time when these kids are supposed to be playing. But the real reason why I'm upset is you are affecting the balance in the game. He said, what are you talking about? I said, some kids in that locker room are freshmen or sophomores, and they're already nervous. And now you got them there sitting there for 6 hours, for an hour thinking about how the game's going to be played. And we don't know how it's going to affect and who it's going to affect. But sitting there for an hour in the locker room with their equipment on and can't play is affecting the game. Plus, it's affecting all the people that want to see this game. Now they can't see it, but all they're doing is listening to Wally and I talking without any game on. I said, this is the most ludicrous thing I've ever seen. And, he actually gave Jeff Grayson heck because then he said the same thing. And then Wally and I sent a letter to the high school league and to the TV. I said, look, I could quit tomorrow, but you got to do something. You got to change this. You got to make sure that you're not affecting the game itself or the people that are waiting there to sit and watch a game by holding up the championship game. So they changed it and they had it earlier so that it wouldn't happen again.
Smart move, 100% true. Makes all the sense in the world. John from Orono asks, I think, the best question. If the state of hockey would be willing to move the tournament to June, would you reconsider your decision to retire after 60 years of being the voice of the tournament?
Yeah, I'm the longest serving broadcaster of any kind right now in Minnesota. Actually, well, I did get a flat tire after the game on Thursday night.
See?
I drove 12 miles on a flat tire last year.
Are you kidding me?
And with no coat in the snowstorm. It wasn't fun.
Oh my God! I'm just saying, maybe we've gotten to the maybe this isn't you being philosophical and the time is right. Maybe this is your way of saying, hey, move it, back, delay it a little bit, and maybe we can talk, and I could go on another 10, 15, 20 years.
That's good. That might be the best question I've ever had in the radio.
That is outstanding. Let's do this. Let's get a quick pause in. We'll continue with Louie. We'll talk about some Minnesota Wild stuff. The club is hurting again, physically and mentally. Could we see the phenom young goaltender as soon as tomorrow night? We'll talk about that as well. Louie making it official, announcing on our show at the top of the 5 o'clock hour that when he broadcasts the state high school hockey tournament this winter, or I should say this March, this will be the last time that he is on the color analysis. That will be year 60. Absolutely unbelievable legacy. We'll be back with more with Louie in just a minute here in The Fan.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barreiro on The Fan.
KFAN